and we're hoping this goes well. We've had two info sessions, and we had a lot of people interested. So we're hoping it goes.
Well, thank you for joining us, Kurt. I'm just going to pause us for a quick second, and I'm going to, for the recording, note that today is March 5th, 2024, 5 p.m. This is a member candidate forum for Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. And then maybe we'll continue along with William Schmidt.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Bill Schmidt. I'm from the Cornish Energy Committee as well. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining. Rod Pimentel.
Hi, Rod Pimentel from Henniker, New Hampshire. I'm on the Energy Committee there, and we are actively looking into joining Community Power at this point. We're just trying to inform the members of the committee, and they all seem very receptive. So I'm very confident, hopeful that at some point this year we will have Community Power.
And Henniker is in the lucky position of being in Merrimack County, where there may be an option to join into a county program as well. So just another option on the table. I'll go to Hope Stragnell.
Hi, I am from Canaan, New Hampshire, and I'm going to be with you guys for a while, and I have to run off because we are going up to talk to the select board tonight to get through the first two steps of joining CPC&H and forming a committee, and we're that's where we're at, and really happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Bob Hamilton.
Yeah, I'm Bob Hamilton. I'm one of the selectmen from the town of Range, and we're part of Cheshire County, which is part of the coalition, I guess.
Yeah, so another option where Range could either create its own program or jump on board with the already up and running Cheshire County Community Power. Thanks for joining, Mr. Hamilton. Joanna.
Hi, Joanna Scharf, Cornish Energy Committee. We are in discussions with our select board to try to move forward on this, but no decision as of yet.
Good to have you, Joanna.
Thanks, Henry.
I see from the chat, Mike Belanger may be having audio issues. Can you hear us, Mike? We hope that can be resolved, and glad to have you. We have Catherine Lynch. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Catherine Lynch, Town Administrator, Town of Hinsdale. We have Community Power on the warrant article, which town meeting is March 16th. And we will hopefully be able to let the residents of Hinsdale join Cheshire County Community Power. Our town, school, and town municipal buildings already are on Community Power.
Fantastic. Glad to have you. And welcome, Mike. I see that your audio is up and running. That's good to hear. We have a D. Bissix.
Yes, Dan Bissix. I should have typed my full name. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Got me right? Cool. Yeah, so I'm with Ringe. I'm on the committee that's assessing the community power. So we have a 7-member committee here that we're just looking for information. So
very good to have you. So what I'd like to do is first introduce our staff at CPC&H, and then I'm going to pass it over to a number of our members and ambassadors, folks who are here from communities that are operating community power programs, and maybe just hear some brief remarks from those folks about their perspective on the community side of why they've chosen to bring community power to their town through the coalition. And then we'll get into some materials that really go through the details of what is the coalition and how the details of everything operates. So with that, maybe I'll just have the distinguished Andrew Hatch introduce himself.
Oh, Good evening. Yes, the distinguished Andrew Hatch, the outreach coordinator for CPCNH. Great to have you all on tonight, and many familiar names. Thank you for joining us.
Andrew's quickly become our expert and go-to resource for towns working through electric aggregation plans. So he's available to support all that entire process. We also have Madeline Bradley, who's another member of the member services team. Go ahead and say hello, Madeline.
Hi, my name's Madeline. I am serving as the communications coordinator for CPCNH. So any general inquiries, anything with websites, and basic communications, I'm your person. I'm sure you guys have all gotten emails from me at this point if you're here. It's nice to see everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Madeline. And of course, our Chief Executive Officer, Brian Callen.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. It's great to see everybody tonight. I've been a little bit about myself. I've been working in public power for about 20 years now, a little more than 20 years, actually, just keeps going. And I joined CPCNH almost a year ago. And I got to tell you, this is the best example of public power that I've seen in those 20 years. The amount of success that we're having in New Hampshire is just fantastic. And I'm hoping that we can share that success with you. So thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks, Brian. So before moving into the materials, we have a couple of folks from our board and from our the membership. So Lisa Sweet, who is on the board of directors from Rye. We have Craig Putnam, who is a member representative from the town of Hudson. And we have Joellen Courtney, who's a member representative from Enfield. All three of these folks serve on the Member Outreach and Engagement Committee. We'll talk a little bit about the committees of CPCNH, but I really just wanted to create space to maybe have a little bit of conversation, and maybe we could have Lisa and then Craig and then Joellen, if you just wanted to briefly introduce yourselves and maybe just say a few words about the process from your perspective. Lisa was part of, and Rye was part of the initial launch in April of 2023, as was Joellen in the town of Enfield. And then Craig is one of the communities that's part of our second wave of launch that's really just coming online this March. So I just wanted to create space for community leaders to sort of get to know one another and share their different perspectives. So.
Yeah, so like Henry said, I'm on the board, and I chair the Member Outreach and Engagement Committee, which is a great committee. We've kind of helped to shape the process of joining, and then we have join, plan, launch, and operate. So we've helped from a member perspective sort of say, what is it that we need to be able to do this easily for our communities? And we try to provide a forum for all the members to kind of get to know each other and use that network, as well as interface with the organization. And like Henry said, I'm on the Rye Energy Committee, and we launched Rye Community Power almost a year ago. And I think it was as of November were the latest numbers we got. We had saved our customers over $260,000. And it has gone overwhelmingly smoothly. Our customers are really happy. People are just grateful. It's just been a really great thing, and everybody has different choices in the community. So it's been a great conversation that we've had with our community, and we really feel good about what we've been able to deliver.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, Craig, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Hi, I'm Craig Putnam from the town of Hudson. So I'm one of two representatives from Hudson to CPCNH. I'm on the member outreach and operations committee, and I also am volunteering on the IT front. So Hudson is rapidly coming to the end of the launch phase, as Henry indicated. We've been thick into this. We've been working on this for over 2 years. We got started really early before a lot of the ink had dried on some of the legislation. So it's been a long haul for us. It'll be much quicker for towns coming along now. The road is much better paved than it was in the early days. So we're coming to the end of launch. We've got customers that are being converted over right now this month, and I've seen some early returns on the data around how customers are opting in or out or up. I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing so far, because we've so far got an opt-out rate of less than 5%, and so I'm thrilled with that. So it's CPC&H is there to help, and boy, there's a lot of help that we can apply. So don't feel at all hesitant to reach out and ask for some help.
Joellen, did you want to share anything from the perspective in Enfield?
Just that I'm pleased to see two communities that I've worked with, or that I have colleagues with, and that is Canaan and Cornish. So I'm pleased that they're here. And we did go to our select board last night and told them how much the community members had saved over the last, since we launched in April, and they were quite impressed. So, and it's really good, and it's wonderful that we're able to have communities work together. So that's it. Thank you.
Glad to have you, Joellen. One sort of theme we may touch on as we go through this is community power can be as simple and easy as the select board voting to say, let's join Cheshire and Merrimack County's program. And then you can join right in, and the rates and the options are now available to all the customers. Quick and easy as that. And then there's this sort of spectrum of detail within there when you develop your own program, expanding value beyond just rate savings to future development of energy projects and control of the revenues associated with the sale of electricity across our communities. So we'll sort of try to touch on the breadth and depth of this in all ways. Another part of that is, we have expert staff, Brian, myself, Madeline, Andrew, a number of other folks on our team, which we'll talk about. But we also have the volunteer members who are all very involved in the oversight of this nonprofit, the coalition, in various ways, on the member side, on the energy procurement side, on the technical side. So there's really a breadth and depth, and it can be as simple as you like, but you really can get involved in sort of the oversight and the decision-making if that is of interest to the community. So I'm going to shift us into our presentation portion of tonight's event. Is the screen showing up well for everybody? Okay, very good. So I mentioned this is a member candidate forum, and we're essentially going to talk through what is community power, what are the benefits, how does the coalition work, and all of the details that you would need to know. And we definitely want to create space at the end of this for Q&A. So I hope you'll, as I go, mark down any questions or comments you may have, and we'll definitely have a bit of a round robin at the end for more discussion and questions. So at this point, I'm sure we're all familiar with what is community power, but I'll do a quick review. Under legislation, RSA 53E, cities, towns, and counties can become default electricity suppliers for residents and businesses. We can pool our purchasing power. We can get an economy of scale. The utility company is always going to own the grid and deliver that power, and our communities can benefit from lower rates, more choices, and more local control over their energy decisions. So these are voluntary programs. Any customer can always come and go, opt in and out without any sort of penalty. And these programs are tax neutral. They are entirely funded through the customer monthly electric bill payment and through the supply charge on their electric bills, and there's no tax impact to the community. Just some of the benefits which we've discussed a little bit, but obviously there's the rates and there's the choices. So customer savings, and then creating a menu of clean energy options. With the coalition, we talk a lot about fiscal stability and financial reserves. So currently this year, the coalition's budget is perhaps $80–90 million forecasted in revenue. And those are revenues that are controlled by the members through this nonprofit structure. Our board sets the budget. Our board sets the electricity rates that we charge to customers. Of course, the majority of that revenue is flowing to purchase electricity on behalf of these communities, but there are, some overhead costs for staff. We are accruing reserve funds, which we'll talk about just as good business practice to ensure our long-term benefit and stability for customers. So really making transparent what is the business model of the electricity sector and how can communities really have a say in that. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Collaboration on energy projects, a key aspect of the coalition's design. It's based on a model, this joint powers agency model, or this coalition model, where communities come together, they create a shared corporate entity. Through that entity, they're able to contract for services, contract to develop energy projects, develop the capability to deploy programs, be it energy efficiency or more innovative electric rates. So these are all kinds of things that are built into the design of the coalition, and we're very excited to begin to move more in that direction in the coming months and years. And then public advocacy is a key feature of what the coalition is doing. You know, many of the folks who put the coalition together were involved in writing the laws that made this possible, writing the regulatory rules, and we continue to empower the collective membership to have a voice in the policy arenas at the legislature, at the Public Utility Commission, to make sure our community's interests are represented. So I'll talk a little bit about mission and values, the mission being to foster resilient New Hampshire communities by empowering them to realize their energy goals. And first and foremost, we want to embody an inspiring vision for New Hampshire's energy future. There's a lot of exciting transformative potential that is happening right now, and the coalition is really well positioned to be a key leader in that. Of course, supporting communities to reduce their energy costs by harnessing the power of competitive markets and innovation. So really increasing competition, increasing innovation, ensuring we have efficient markets and efficient price signals. Some of our members have clean energy goals, and part of our mission is to support communities to implement successful energy and climate policies and to promote the transition to a carbon neutral energy system for those members that have that as an objective. We seek to balance the interests of all of our member communities who are diverse in their demographics and their geography and their energy goals. I think our smallest member is a few hundred people in population. I don't know if it's Sugar Hill or Harrisville. Harrisville may have the record right now. And then all the way up to Nashua. And everything in between. So really making sure that we are representing the needs of all those different types of members. We want to build the expertise, leadership, and skills of the members we want to educate, empower, and build their capacities. So, knowledge transfer is a really key part of this. We can't make the best energy decisions unless we're informed about how the system functions. And in that line, demystifying the power sector to make those informed decisions and ensuring that we're facilitating collaboration and teamwork across the membership, championing diversity, equity, and inclusion of all types of communities and all types of people. I'll just flag a few key website links. You can check out our public meeting minutes at cpcnh.org/calendar. You can also zoom into any of our meetings. Meetings of our board and of our committees are open to the public and subject to the right to know law. And there's key documents under the About page, and there's some really good FAQs on communitypowernh.gov as well. So current membership, there's more than 50 members. I think it's 55 or 56 at present, including 2 counties. And collectively, those members represent about or more than 30% of the state's population. So this map is breaking down for you. You can see dark green were the first launch of communities, followed by some others later in 2023. These communities marked in dark blue, including the town of Hudson, for example, are all enrolling their customers this March. So as of the end of March, these perhaps 12 communities will be fully enrolled and be up and running along with the green ones. And then there's a number of communities, several of you perhaps are in this planning stage marked in red, where you're preparing to go to town meeting and maybe ready to launch later this year or sometime next year. So currently 28 communities are up and running, and that's about 120,000 electric customers. And just through the calendar year of 2023, across those operating communities, there's about $9 million in customer savings in total. The coalition already represents the second largest default service provider in New Hampshire after Eversource. So the electric load associated with the coalition is larger than Unitil or Liberty or the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative. So there's considerable buying power and scale. And, I mentioned many members are on track to launch later this year or early next year. Coalition's membership, it's open to any city or town or county that would be interested in joining. So I'll talk a little bit about governance and operations, but our board, which Lisa sits on, along with a number of other folks from our city and town and county members, our board is elected by the collective membership. So for those of us that are members, we'll get together on April 25th this year for our annual membership meeting, where the collective members will elect a new board or 7 seats of the 20-seat board. And the folks who serve on the board, they're from city councils, they're from select boards, they're from local energy committees, they're folks just like yourselves from all around the state. And a lot of them have a breadth and depth of expertise from having worked on the policy side or the utility side or other areas of the energy sector that they bring to that board and to that oversight. So transparency, accountability, that's a really key aspect of the coalition's design. And then on the staff side, we have our staff team. Brian talked a little bit about his background, being a leader in the public power sector, and we're currently growing. So we have a staff of 4 and we're hiring for 2 new roles, which is very exciting. We also have a really excellent vendor team. So, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes in managing an electricity portfolio. So, we're procuring a portfolio of wholesale energy contracts, and we're supported in that by the firm Ascend Analytics, who has, well-practiced serving major utilities and other community power agencies all across the country in similar fashion. So they're helping to advise on risk management and how do we participate in the ISO New England power markets. Calpine Energy Solutions is another really key partner, and one of the things that they do is customer service. So, we have a contact center. You call the phone number 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. any weekday and get a customer service rep, opt in, opt out, choose your energy product. They're managing all of the billing and data management behind the scenes and working with utility companies. And we're subject to annual third-party audits, things of that nature. So these are sort of the pieces behind what it takes to operate a coalition. And of course, Resilient Buildings Group, where Andrew and Madeline join us from supporting some of the community engagement work. I won't read all of this, but do want to let everybody know that we do have a number of committees of the board. So any member of the coalition is invited to participate on one of our oversight committees. There's no requirement, but a lot of communities do participate and play, a key role in ensuring we're hiring a third-party audit firm, participating on the executive committee, participating on the finance committee, member outreach and engagement, where Lisa and Craig and Joellen join us from, governance, risk management, and regulatory and legislative affairs. I'll just mention for a moment, for those who are, technically minded, the Risk Management Committee is a very interesting place where we're meeting monthly. We're analyzing power markets, future prices of electricity trends, and making decisions about how much power to buy, blocks of power to buy to add into our portfolio of different power contracts that we're actively managing over time. So some folks might be interested to pop into a meeting there. On the regulatory and legislative side of things, the commitment to ensuring that our policy advocacy represents the will and the interest of the members is really key. So that committee is guided by a charter that is approved by all of the collective members of the organization. So all cities and towns will vote on the charter that sets the policy priorities, or the policy direction rather, of the work that committee does, so we can weigh in on bills and know that we really are representing the interests of the collective members. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about process. This may be familiar to some, but I think it's important to review. So really, Lisa mentioned this, but it's sort of as simple as join, plan, launch. And the first step to become a member is adoption of our joint powers agreement. I'll talk about that a little more on a later slide. but that is the sort of corporate charter of the coalition. It incorporates us as a nonprofit. It lays out the rules of the road, our committee structure, our board structure, and has all of the details of the organization's structure. So by adopting that agreement, a town becomes a member and then appoints a representative and an alternate to participate in, at the very least, the annual meeting of the organization. They could then choose to, above and beyond that, join a committee or perhaps run for a seat on the board. After joining the coalition, a community develops a community power plan or an electric aggregation plan. And really, because of the good work of Lisa and Craig and the committees and members around the state, the road has been pretty well paved here. So this can be a pretty streamlined process by which a town is equipped with a plan. And I know a number of towns are already on their way to town meeting here. There's a public hearing process. There's a town meeting vote. There's a Public Utility Commission approval. And at that point in time, your select board or your governing body would be authorized to launch the program, to contract for services to launch the program. In terms of launch, that is, again, the select board executing a cost sharing agreement and a service agreement with the coalition. So then we are authorized to mail notifications to customers, support your public engagement campaigns, purchase your electricity, enroll those customers, set up the contact center, and all of the above in terms of operations. I did want to flag that this structure of the Joint Powers Agency under the Joint Powers Agreement, I think this sort of quote says it well, but by joining together, members of the coalition create economies of scale and innovation in procuring services and managing power procurement risks. We gain administrative efficiencies in terms of expert staff oversight. So each town doesn't have to hire its own individual power procurement experts. And we strengthen our collective voice at the Legislature and Public Utility Commission. And really the purpose here is to enhance local control for member communities and have an organization that responds to the values and the interests of those member towns. So I'll get a little more detailed on what the services are and what the process is. And this may look like a lot, but really this is all the things that CPC&H does on behalf of towns, and they don't really have to worry about. But anyway, for the planning phase, Andrew and Madeline, myself, and other members of our team will support you to get registered with the Public Utility Commission, complete your electric aggregation plan, and ensure that you're complying with the rules and regulations. There's some data requests with utilities. We mentioned the public hearings and, of course, the town meeting. The next phase being the launch phase. We work with all member towns to conduct public engagement campaigns. So we'll work with you to collaborate with regional neighbors and partners, develop a strategy, develop an action plan, equip you with materials, banners, posters, handouts, and we should really get some maybe photos of those we can put in our materials as well, because there's some really great banners and posters out there. Set up your website. On the operations side, you know, we're managing all the utility data, we're procuring electricity, and we're setting rates, billing customers, managing the accrual of financial reserves, and tracking revenues and providing oversight in that regard. And I mentioned customer service, but again, mailed letters to all customers, designing that, processing that, and having the active contact center. In terms of operations, this is really forward-looking, but we are hiring for a director of programs and projects and an energy analyst who will expand our capabilities in the areas of financing clean energy projects and deploying innovative energy programs, whether that's a time-based rate, time of use rate, or something related to energy efficiency, or some of the other innovative aspects that we see mature community power markets deploying in their communities. I mentioned public advocacy, and I'm sorry our colleague Dina Dennis couldn't join us tonight, but we are taking position on a number of bills and have ensuring that our members are informed. So there have been opportunities where more than 100 folks who have been notified have weighed in on certain pieces of legislation that are beneficial to expanding energy innovation, to enabling communities to have greater control over developing local energy resources. And that is a key aspect of really maximizing value. And if we want to drive down costs long term, communities need more local control. They need more access to competitive market solutions to developing a local energy project or otherwise innovating. I mentioned the Regulatory Legislative Affairs Charter. So the policy principles that have been adopted by the members are the following: increasing innovation through local control, equity, and community development, advancing community benefits through open access to the electric system, and enforcement of laws, market rules, and regulations. So these are the overarching pillars that really guide the policy activities of the organization. And really, for longer term value, a number of members are certainly interested in projects and distributed energy resources. So built into our joint powers agreement and the structure of the organization is the ability to empower members to develop projects. That could be done through, on the portfolio side, we're managing this portfolio of power contracts, and through that, a town could choose to or the organization or a town could choose to enter into a longer-term power purchase agreement or a contract with a specific generator, whether that be a generator local to their community, or if they were motivated to buy clean power, a clean power generator. And there are other mechanisms that are authorized, including revenue bonding, to finance and develop energy projects. So these are structural things that we've put in place. They haven't been implemented as of yet, as we're still in the early stages of the organization, but a number of members are excited looking forward towards implementing innovative programs or developing projects using these structures that have been put in place. And when we look to some of the other states around the country that have had community power for a longer period of time, California is a really good example where their joint action model has succeeded in developing many megawatts, many thousands of megawatts of clean energy projects. So these community power agencies in California have really driven the majority of the deployment of energy storage and of other renewable energy generators. Okay, some other just sort of nuts and bolts of what you need to know. Notification process. When implementing a program, a town, what is required under the law and what we do is at least 30 days before launch or enrollment, everyone would be with all the details. Here's your rate. Here's how it compares to the utility rate. The coalition does not launch communities, does not enroll customers into community power programs unless the rate is lower than the utility rate at the time of launch. In that letter, there's all the details. A customer can decline or opt out. They can call the phone number. They can go to communitypowernh.gov, or they can email us if they would like to choose a different power option or to opt out. Customers who are already shopping with third-party providers are not enrolled, but they could choose to opt in. We know the utility continues to deliver the power, and anytime there is a rate change, that would be publicly posted at least 30 days in advance. And the customer is always free to opt out after enrollment as well. This slide is just to illustrate that the utility company is still going to send the bill, and on that bill, there will be a line item that would say supplier. On an Eversource case, we have a Portsmouth Poway Almost Power example. This is on the Eversource bill, and on the Unitil bill, an example from Exeter Community Power under the, again, the supplier service. So I'll talk through our rates. I'll talk through sort of the makeup of the rate, commercial rates, rate comparison. And then I do want to touch on county programs before we wrap up presentation and we go into some Q&A. So this is just showing the current menu of options. We have the utility companies on top, Unitil being the highest rate, Eversource coming in lowest, and then the menu of small and residential customer options offered through the coalition. So Granite Basic being the lowest at 8.1 cents, and any customer being able to choose one of these green items, Granite Plus, Clean 50, Clean 100, for a higher amount of renewable energy. So under this rate period, it's about 24% off Unitil's rate, 20% off the co off of Eversource. So one of the things in sort of this vein of transparency and local control that we hope to convey is what is in an electricity supply rate. So if we look here, this is an illustration of the coalition's rate as compared to the Unitil rate and a broker rate. Now, every rate has some combination of energy costs, supplier operating costs, whatever the operating costs of whoever's selling you that power, the net revenue of that supplier, and then perhaps an administrative fee. So this is the same if you have a broker, there's the energy cost, supplier operating cost, supplier's net revenue, and the broker fee. If you're on, you could say Eversource, and it'd be a little bit lower down here. Eversource would have energy cost, the supplier's operating cost, supplier's net revenue, and then the Eversource administrative cost. What's different with the coalition is sort of lifting the hood and lending transparency to how that all works. So again, we have our energy cost. We know what that is. There's an operating cost associated with our staff and our offices and our vendors. And then there are the net revenues, which would be the profit if we were a for-profit supplier, but in our case are deposited into reserve accounts, the joint reserve account. A little bit about I think the reserves are sort of a key aspect of the coalition's transparency and creating an organization that really is responsive to member needs. Yeah, maybe I will leave it there for now. This is a bit of a busy slide, but we want to make sure everybody is aware that if you are a commercial customer, a medium-sized commercial customer, you can participate. Some of those customers are on monthly variable rates, and those monthly rates are similarly discounted the same way that our residential rates are. And in the case of Eversource, right now with this current rate period, those medium-sized commercial customers have a 33% savings off the Eversource rate, and there's other good savings for the other utilities as well. So the coalition, it's important to note, has the flexibility to adjust rates over time. Currently, the coalition has adjusted rates on a 6-month cycle, as utility companies have adjusted rates. And that's not to say we're buying power every 6 months, but it is to say that as we buy power periodically, month to month to month, managing the portfolio as the market changes, we're doing that on one side. And then on the 6-month cycle, as the utility changes its rates, coalition is able to adjust rates as well. So we remember back in April, May, and early last year, utility rates were at record highs between 20 and 26 cents. Then the rates have fallen over the past 2 utility periods. So coming down in August, and then coming down again in the February period. So over 3 consecutive periods, this red line is the coalition being able to deliver savings relative to the utility companies as the market has fallen. This slide also sort of illustrates a contrast between the broker model, where communities that are running community power with a broker might lock in a single rate for a 30-month period or a 3-year period. And in that instance, you have stability, but the trade-off is if rates come down, you may end up with a rate that exceeds the market rate at that point in time, which is illustrated in the current example. Okay, a note on the county model before we wrap up and do Q&A. Some folks are in Cheshire, some folks are in Merrimack. The county model, we believe, is going to spread quickly in New Hampshire. So Cheshire's up and running, already serving 6 towns in Cheshire County, and glad to have Hinsdale here as well, and understand that their town meeting is coming up with that question. In Merrimack County, just this Friday, the county delegation is going to take up a consideration of their community power plan. So this is an approach, we've thrown a lot of information at you tonight, and there are avenues to really streamline access, and the county model is one of those. So once a county model is up and running, any electric customer in that county may opt in. So it immediately makes the benefits available on an opt-in basis to every electric customer in the county. So it helps to spread those benefits more quickly. And in terms of a town joining, under a county program, a town or a municipality could choose that county program as their default electricity supplier. That means that by vote of a select board, a town could choose to make that the default, could choose to have every customer enrolled into that program on an opt-out basis. So similar notification process, everyone receives the letter. And for those customers that make no choice, they would be enrolled automatically into the county program if that's what the select board chose to do. So there's the 6 towns in Cheshire County that have sort of expedited the access to the program in that manner. Okay, one more thing before we get to Q&A. I do want to just mention the joint powers agreement. So I talked about this, but it's important for potential members to understand this is a contract among and between all of the cities and towns that make up the coalition's membership. So it's an agreement between them to participate in this corporation, this nonprofit corporation, and a key aspect of that is shielding the member town from the liabilities of CPC&H. So there are liability protections written into the joint powers agreement that say no obligation or financial commitment of the coalition is an obligation or commitment of a member town, other than those that are subsequently or later on agreed to in the cost sharing agreement. And that's the agreement that allows us to launch service that comes later down the line. So again, if a town to join, this is a document that will be presented to the governing body, the select voted on, and then the governing body or the select board would appoint its representatives to CPC&H. So that's on our website. We can make that available to anybody, but that is, the important first step for communities that would like to become members. And that's definitely enough talking from me, but I'm pleased to wrap up, open it up for Q&A, and I hope folks have other questions or comments they'd like to make, and glad to have, some staff and ambassadors here as well. So please.
Hi, my name's Kurt. I have a couple of questions. First off, you mentioned, Caroline, your call center. Could you tell me where they're based if I made a call, or am I going to get someone in Bangalore, or am I going to get somebody in Baltimore?
All of our customer service representatives are based in the United States.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, you mentioned that you send out 30 days in advance, that the program is going to start. And in there, you said that you're going to have a lower rate than Eversource. Is that in the notification that you send, that you're actually going to state that?
That's correct. The notification that is mailed states the rate that Community Power is offering in the menu, and it states the Eversource rate at that same time. And we do not launch or enroll rate of Community Power is lower than the Eversource or utility rate at the time of launch.
Okay. Okay, so the last question is, I think I mentioned a little bit about this at when I started, when the meeting started. And I'll ask this in I'll ask a different question, and that is, will CPC&H be willing to work with us, since we have taken a slightly different approach than perhaps other towns are taking, in that we haven't chosen anyone yet, but yet we have, in fact, based on advice we were given, we've developed a plan based on Peterborough's plan. We developed a warrant article based on Peterborough's warrant article. We're putting that in front of the town in a couple of weeks, and we haven't chosen CPCNH yet. I mean, clearly, we're very interested. I'm very interested. But will you be willing to work with us and take our plan and review it if we choose CPCNH? Will you be willing to help us get in front of the PUC and do what we need to do to get this done, given that we've already, done part of the work, and you weren't involved in some of the early steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, the coalition is available to support you, and we would want to review that. It sounds like you've modeled it off of the Peterborough model, and that's a great example. We'd be happy to review that, just ensure that, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, and equip you with resources to go to the Public Utility Commission. Typically, all of the resources for going through a regulatory approval process, those are typically resources that are prioritized for members or communities that have adopted the Joint Powers Agreement. So that's really typically that's a triggering point where you're fully availed of all the resources of CPCNH after a select board adopts that agreement. But yeah, we'd be very pleased to collaborate.
Well, that's what I'm asking. We would, in fact, if we move forward with CPCNH, that's what we would do, is sign that agreement. And that's what I'm asking. Would you then work with us?
Absolutely. Yeah.
If they say, when I put this in front of the select board and we say, yep, these are the guys we want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that if you would say, no, you guys have already screwed up.
I misunderstood. Absolutely. If your select board adopted the Joint Powers Agreement, immediately upon that action, all of the services of CPCNH become available to you. We can conduct a technical review of that plan. We could support you to submit it to the Public Utility Commission, and the whole way through, essentially, our services are available to you.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking for any help before that time. We've already done what we know we can do. We know we can't go in front of the PUC. We know we can't do a lot of the other things without your help. We know that. And that's why I'm asking, when we sign it, are you going to be willing to help us?
100% yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Joanna.
Hi, Joanna Scharf Cornish. Few questions, but if you can't take all of them, that's okay. First, let's say our town votes to join CPCNH, and we're launched and everything, how much administrative time will the town need to devote to running the program?
I would say minimal to none. So the administrative time would be any review a town would do of a Joint Powers Agreement. And then, any process where a town committee is moving through the town meeting approval. And then the final administrative burden would be review of the cost sharing agreement and the member service contract and approving those service agreements. Once those are in place, essentially the entirety of administrating the program is CPCNH's responsibility. Periodically, on a 6-month cycle, the select board could make a decision on, maybe we want to change which rate we're offering. Again, that's an option. The town could just set it and forget it. We want the lowest rate, or we want Granite Plus. So really, there should be minimal to no administrative burden on a town.
Okay, good to know. And but you need one person to attend all the meetings, right?
Not all the meetings. There is a member representative would be expected to attend at least one meeting per year. That would be the annual membership meeting. And there's one meeting at launch that it's sort of the go, no go meeting. There's one meeting of our risk management committee where we make the decision to authorize power procurement for the first time on behalf of a member. And that there's an option again where a town could send a representative, authorized officer, to that meeting. And it's sort of the last call for you may delay and walk away from this program. No harm, no foul, no hard feelings, but we're going to decide to launch it now. Speak now, forget, or forever hold your peace on the launch.
Okay. Thank you. And do you know if Sullivan County is considering joining the coalition at all?
We've had several conversations with County Administrator Derek Furland, and is they're not motivated to lead on that, as I think they're sort of they see some activity in the towns and their perspective may be that they would lead that to the towns, but I don't know, perhaps their minds might change.
Okay, thank you, Henry.
Donna Loranger. Oh, you think you're muted.
My question, I actually would like to direct to the gentleman from Hudson. Is it Craig?
Yeah, sure.
Because Salem and Hudson are about the same size, and I think the same mentality as Salem. So it's taking you a couple years to get this through. From what I understand, we had a presentation in Salem back in August from Community Power. And they said that Hudson was a struggle because of the whole opt-in, opt-out thing. And I'm hearing rumblings about that with Salem when I bring this up. So I was just wondering how you overcame that.
So a couple things. So the extent of the time that's been involved, you need to understand that we got involved with this while the legislation was still evolving. Okay, so you know there were a lot of undotted I's and uncrossed T's, and so things just ran much slower in that first part. Once all of that got settled down, which happened more recently, things have moved along much more quickly. And so I think towns that are in your position now will see a much shorter timeline to go through this whole thing than we did. So I wouldn't worry about that. I probably shouldn't have brought it up. In terms of the opt-out, yeah, Hudson there's been a vocal minority that have been very vocal about the opt-out issue. And you know, Hudson's certainly not been the only town that's experienced this. But you know, we've just been working hard. The committee, the Electric Aggregation Committee in town, have been working hard to try to get the word out and get people educated about it. And you know, honestly, some people are not unwilling to be educated, and so you just have to deal with that. But others have come around. I have spent a lot of time personally going back, you know, going to the senior center, going to, you know, having one-on-one open office kind of things at the library and so on. And we've had articles in the newspaper and various other communication mechanisms, and to try to get the word out that, you know, this is some people are just offended by the opt-out nature of it, and there really is not a whole lot you're going to be able to do about that.
Okay.
Let me say though, I've looked at the numbers of our enrollment so far that we've been getting from Henry now for the last few weeks on a weekly basis, and right at the moment our opt-out rate is at 3.4%. I'm thrilled with that. That's way better than I thought it was going to be. So I may well have been overly concerned about that. We'll see how the rest of the month progresses, but that's where it is as of the last update a few days ago. So I hope that helps.
Yes, it does.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Clyde Carson. Hello.
I just like to come in and second what Craig's saying. It's you know, we had those issues of people saying they did not like the idea that they had to opt out. But our town, I think, was reflective of a lot of people. 80% of the people in our town go with the default service. They just, no matter what's happening in the marketplace, they just go with it. And our experience of going live, number one, was extremely smooth. I comments coming back to the gentleman from Mason, people have said to me, calling the customer service number has been a pleasure. Getting through quick, getting service friendly, helpful. It's been fantastic. Over 90% of the people who would have were in the opt-in category stayed with the program. Our number of opt-out was similar to Hudson, maybe a little bit lower, but we had people that just were offended and they weren't going to go. But that's in our town. It's a really small percentage of those people. The launch experience in Warner has been fantastic. It's been smooth. And to the person who was asking about, is there much work on the part of the town officials once you get going? It looks like I agree with Henry, it's going to be little to none.
And Donna, let me, because I'm one of the ambassador program representatives, I'm happy to come over and speak with your committee or however I can help in Salem. My first home was in Salem, so I have a little affinity for the town still.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I appreciate all this information too. I think this is awesome. So I just want to get the rest of Salem to say, this is awesome.
One of the big questions I get from everybody, they said, it sounds like too good to be true. What's the downside?
Yeah, what's the hitch?
And
yeah,
there is no downside. It's all good. So
great. Thank you again.
Henry just sends his apologies. He had a hard stop at 6, so I'm now standing in to continue the conversation. We had scheduled this through 6:15, so please don't be dissuaded to continue. I see Richard Thompson has his hand raised.
Yeah, it's just 2 quick questions. One is, could someone describe what the Granite Plus rate is?
Yeah. So from a renewable portfolio standard, the Granite Plus is at 33% renewables versus the mandatory basic, which is at 24.3% this year. The RPS is increasing. It went up a tick this year and will do so again next year, but unless state law changes, it will flatline in 2025 at 25.2%. So you gain, slightly less than 10% additional renewables, and it is the threshold that is permitted for a community to opt into and be the default. So folks who adopt that, the residents would have to choose to opt down to the Granite Basic. We currently have 3 communities, all of who had made pledges to be moving towards 100% renewables by 2030 and have been adopted at a previous town meeting. And they felt comfortable with moving the needle a little further along by making that default. In fact, it's been interesting watching the behaviors of those towns. I'm just looking at a chart now. All of the Granite Plus launches were in April of last year, so we've almost come up to the anniversary. And the opting down is in the low single digits, and all of those communities are maintaining Granite Plus at 90% and above.
That's great.
Now, the other question was, is CPC offering a off-peak rate for EV charging?
Currently, those other opportunities are yet to be developed, but Brian Cownan is here to speak about that.
Oh, I was waving my hand to Lisa. She was leaving.
No, you were putting your hand up, Brian, to answer the question.
I also wanted to jump in on the opt-out rates. I'll answer that one in a second, but overall for the organization as a whole, our opt-out rate is around 0.5%. So the amount of folks that want to just move on and go somewhere else is about 0.5% so far. So that's out of 120,000 people. So doing pretty good so far. On the time of use rate, Richard, we would want, we are looking forward to do something like that as soon as we can. We just can't do it. We would do it if we could get the information that we needed from the utilities. And it's not because the utilities are just not giving it to us because they don't want us to have it. It's they can't figure out how to do it. And we continue to go down to Concord and try to help them figure that out. So we can serve folks like you with a better off-peak rate, because that makes all the sense in the world. Why charge your EV during higher cost hours when you don't care when it gets charged? You're sleeping. Might as well charge it overnight and have lower costs. So we're there with it. We just can't do it yet.
Yeah, I'm a member of the co-op and I've been struggling with them to get with it. Not working out too well.
Oh, they've got one. I came from the co-op. They've got one. Give them a call.
Right. But if with my solar, I have to install a separate meter.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
They've also got a transactive energy rate. Give them a call on that one.
Okay. Thanks.
Joanna's put her hand up.
Hi, another question. Can you explain, well, I guess this is a twofold question. I'm not sure, I don't know what cost sharing means, and I want to know if our town would ever be required to owe the coalition money, or would be an obligation to pay something into the coalition, or be, I guess, have some sort of debt that they may not have expected.
Again, the short answer to that is no. And I do understand that this term cost sharing does throw up a confusing notion of we're sharing costs. I didn't think there were any costs. And the notion of cost sharing is the equal and fair distribution of overhead between the member communities. So the cost sharing is between all of the members of CPC&H, and it has no bearing on, as Henry said earlier, the impact. There is no impact on the municipalities. They are protected by the regulations that we operate under, and there will be no impact at any point in the provision of community power.
Okay.
Do you want to say anything more to that, Brian?
No, that was way better than I could have said it, actually. Well done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thanks. I see Bob Hamilton has his hand up.
Yeah, hi, this is Bob. I guess in the town of Ringe, since we're in Cheshire County, we're in the best of both worlds, in that all of our residents can opt in to Community Power Coalition. The problem I have is I've gone on the internet to see how to opt into it, and Ringe cannot automatically opt in. It's not in the drop down of towns that you can opt into it. So that's a problem.
I understand. So have you been to the Cheshire County site, and you're saying the drop down's not there because we don't have a launch community in Ringe?
Correct.
Yeah. So the options though on that site are threefold, that either call, email, or, well, really call and email, because if you don't have the drop down, you can't enroll through the automatic access on the website. So either calling or emailing, all you need to have is your account number to hand, and the Calpine customer service folks will help you.
Okay, I appreciate that. The other thing is, like I said, we're in the best of both worlds. We can opt in at will without the town having to commit itself to the program. And this way, it is a totally opt-in program, which is what the selectmen want, at the lowest cost. So we have the choice of the lowest cost in the opt-in program. So is that correct? What is the benefit of joining the program for the town of Ringe, where we can already opt into the CPC?
Well, the answer to you in Ringe is twofold. One is that if an individual town enrolls within a county that has its own program, it automatically takes precedence, and the encouragement to consider that would be dependent upon how much engagement and passion the town had for the broader vision of the coalition rather than just the saving money piece. It also makes the job of saving money for those residents not motivated enough to take the time and trouble to opt in. If you do go with the opt-out program, they don't have to do anything and they immediately benefit from the savings. But that is definitely a consideration from a optics and perception point of view. And if you have a select board that is not predisposed to support that, then this is another option that within Ringe you could probably consider a proactive marketing campaign to notify people. I'm working with the county folks, and we actually did some analysis of opt-ins just yesterday. I'm going to be at their governance council next week, which is the group that represents the launch communities within Cheshire County who are not directly enrolled in CPCNH. So they all have a say, but the role of the county is the one that has the representation at the board and annual general meeting in April. The difference is really in terms of the allocation of reserves. You would not directly be receiving or be credited with reserves in Ringe if you were launching through a county program. But that's not to suggest that through the governance council that you wouldn't have a say in how those reserves may be managed in the future. So it's a little subtle. It's a conversation I'd like to take offline with you. I spoke, obviously with Dan Bissix about some of these things a while back, and we'd be very happy to come down and get into more detail with you in the future.
All right, I appreciate that. I think possibly the county should get a little bit more involved in the advertising of CPC in how to go about getting onto this rather than leaving the. Originally, I texted or I emailed CPC that same question, whether an individual could get in, and I was told no, I could not. And within 2 weeks, I got an apology and they corrected that information, which was great. But, I don't know how many other residents have called to get into it and were told no, they couldn't.
If it was to the call center, we should definitely be able to track that, because every single call and the
No, it was an email to Community Power Coalition.
Okay. Well, we apologize for that. We're making corrections. That's why I'm down in Cheshire County next week to really work with the county on planning this outreach. Cheshire County only launched in September. So, the messaging is still getting through, but we are working on it, and I appreciate your feedback.
Great. Thank you, Henry.
And Tom Bascom. Still on mute.
Had to unmute. I'm sorry, but I was left baffled by your answer about cost sharing. So there are some costs to be shared. What, like overhead costs for the call center, something like that?
So, I mean,
who pays those costs? I mean, somebody's got to pay them.
Yeah, all costs of running the program are paid for out of the rates. So do you remember those block charts that Henry was showing a little while ago? Instead of a profit line, we call the profit line revenue, and below that line is the costs of the administrative costs and the overheads of running the coalition, and then there is the cost of procuring the energy. So all of those things are costs. In addition to that, obviously going through the process of enrollment and then launch has a cost, and that cost is amortized and borne by the coalition, and then the coalition is reimbursed over time. We don't burden a launch community with any upfront cost, but obviously that has to be taken into account. So all of those things, and when we say the cost sharing agreement, it's clearly articulated all those different buckets and how they're broken out and how we fairly apportion those costs and don't burden one community with the costs of another and so forth.
So you're saying that that's part of the rate that that the individual subscribers pay, not a bill that comes back to the town.
Correct.
It's like, okay, all right.
So
that
it's
makes
all in
sense.
the 8.1 cent rate that you see today.
All right,
Yeah,
that I understand. Okay.
Good. And I can add to that too, Tom, is one thing that's in the cost sharing agreement, and it's on that. If you remember one of the slides, Henry had here's some good website documents to go to. So it's right out there. And the way I think about it is it helps each community understand how costs will be allocated. So there's a box in there that kind of goes through the rows of here are all how those costs are allocated. If anybody asks you directly, you could go right to that and say, oh, that's how that cost is allocated.
All right, and there, I had another question. Earlier, you were asked about launching and basically guaranteeing a rate lower than Eversource. Are you guys familiar with what happened in Jaffrey a little while ago?
Yes.
So are you saying that when you come to an agreement with the town that the rate will be lower, or are you saying that the rate will be lower on the first bill that a consumer sees?
The latter.
That's
It's
what you're
a whole
guaranteeing.
different, I mean, the concept of the broker model is, as that line graph suggested, is taking a different approach. Many of the towns that adopted broker models, have been very familiar as a municipality with a broker model. A lot of the motivations of municipalities is to make sure that there is rate stability and rate guarantees, because they are budgeting over multi-years, and they are happy to perhaps offset maybe some slightly higher cost just to have that rate stability. The coalition chooses to map to the 6 months rate changes of the utilities, and therefore we can be far more transparent in terms of this cost saving. It's a lot easier because it's apples and apples. The situation in Jaffrey is that they engage with a broker. A broker procures power, and they have a very short window to say yes or no and sign up on it. At the time when that power was procured, the rate that they procured was somewhat lower than the prevailing Eversource rate, but by the time they got ready to launch, Eversource's rates had gone down and left that somewhat difficult conversation. That won't happen.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
That won't happen under the current rate methodology of the coalition.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we have just hit the 6:15 time. Has anybody else got any last questions? And hearing none, I will thank you all for attending. I, for one, would say that this has been a very fruitful opportunity to meet with you. Madeline sent the invites out. Please keep in touch if you'd like to share any slides with you. We will continue to communicate with you. In the last few weeks, we have instituted new mailing databases, so we'll be more proactive in keeping in touch, not only in terms of regulatory information, but also updates of what's happening in the coalition. It's a very exciting time for us. We're planning another launch in June. There's another one penciled in for next September. So we very much hope to continue to engage with you, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you, many of you in person over the next few weeks.
And thanks a lot to the ambassadors too for helping share your guys' experience.
Happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I just want to say too, this session has been recorded. So if you would like a recording of the session, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to send it to you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you again, everybody, and have a great night.
Everybody.
Night, everyone.